Happy morning, dear friends. Here's yours, Dr. Rajanta. Welcome to Demystify with Ajay. And today we are in the first module of this data science and machine learning series. And here is our tutorial 2. In this module, you will learn about Python basics such as variables, types, printing, expressions, and debugging. These are some of the most fundamental principles of programming in Python. Some of the things you will learn here are common to many languages, whereas some are specific to Python. And regardless, the things you will learn in this module are going to enable you to craft more complex multi-steps program later on. And dear friends, here in this module, we are just going to have a summarization of the Python programming. And if you expect each and everything or every module in detail, I just give you the link in the description where the previous challenge of my Python 60-60-60 challenge is there, and it has a detailed description of each and every concept, so you can just go ahead of it. And here let me just start the fundamental of Python programming. Dear friends, this is the agenda. Today we are just going to discuss. The first one is Python keywords, which we also known as reserve words. Python keywords are the words that used to define the language syntax and structure. As a result, you can't use them to name variables, functions, objects, classes, or other similar items or process. To avoid errors or exceptions, take a note of these 33 keywords and avoid using them as identifiers. Please note that the keywords are case sensitive and that all of these keywords, with the exception of true, false, and none, are in lowercase and they must be typed exactly as they are. The second one is the identifier. A variable, class, function, string, list, dictionary, modules, or other object is given the name called identifier. It aids in the differentiation of one entity from another in Python. We are having a set of 5 identifier writing rules. The first one, rule 1, a combination of lowercase a to z or uppercase capital A to Z letters, digits 0 to 9 or an underscore can be used as an identifier. Here, the following are some of the examples with the combinations of uppercase, lowercase, and with underscores. The second rule, a digit cannot be the first characters in an identifier. And for your information, here the example where the digits start with where the very identifier start with a digit is invalid. The rule 3, keywords cannot be used as an identifier. Rule 4, a special character such as asterisk symbol, that is exclamatory, at symbol, hash symbol, dollar symbol, a percentage, and other may not be used in the identifiers. And last but not least, the fifth rule, identifier can be of any length. And for your information, dear friends, avoid using the letters O, that is in uppercase, and the letter L in lowercase, and the uppercase letter of I as a single letters identifier in some fonts because they can be confused with the number 0 and 1. Although an identifier can contain several words, using a several underscore to separate each unit improves readability. Next coming the naming variable, naming global variables. The name of a global variable should be written in lowercase letters. An underscore should be used to separate 2 or more words in a global variable name. Here is the naming conversion applied to each Python objects. The first one is naming instant variables. Multiple word instance variable should be separated by an underscore. Lowercase should be used for variable names. The name of an non-public instance variable begin with an underscore. A mangling required instance name being with 2 underscores. The next is naming modules and packages. See, modules names should all be in lowercase. Module names should preferably be one-word names. Multiple words may be used if necessary for better readability, though it is discouraged. A single underscore should be used to separate them. Next is naming function. A function name should be composed entirely of lowercase letters. To improve readability, underscore should be used to separate multiple words in a function name. Next, naming arguments. In an instant method, the first argument should be self. And in the class method, the first argument should always be class. When you want to distinguish an argument's name from a reserved keyword, a single trailing underscore is preferable to an abbreviation or name corruption. Next, naming constants. To separate multiple words, names constants are written in all uppercases letters with underscore. Next is using quotation marks. String literals are denoted by quotation marks. You can use single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes. But you must maintain consistency by beginning and ending the string with the same quotation marks. Here are the examples of using single quotes, double quotes, and triple quotes. The next one is statement. Statements are expressions that you write within a program which are in turn read and executed by the Python interpreter. Python supports statements such as if statement, for statement, while statement, break statement, and assign statement. And here it is extended as multi-line statements, where statements that are too long to fit on a single line are often written across multiple lines. You can enclose a multiple line expression in braces, brackets, or parentheses to tell that it is a single statement. Here are the two examples. The first one, which we have used the parenthesis and for the multiple line statement. The next example, which it just shows, see the structures show demonstrate how to tell Python that a multiple line statement is expected. You can use a backslash at the end of each line to indicate explicit continuation. Next is indentation. See, white space or indentation are used to structure Python programs. As a result, you won't see the familiar curly braces around blocks codes. If you have using Java, C or C++ for a while, Python programs with white space appears more organized and readable. A block in Python begins at the same point on the right and ends on the first unindented line. It's as simple as indenting to the right to start a nested block. To indent a block of code, programmers use 4 white spaces rather than tabs. While Python do not require this level of indentation, consistency of indentation within block code is required if you want your program to run correctly. So to illustrate how indentation is implemented, look at the program segment here provided. Next is commands. Commands are notes that are written within programs to describe a step, a process, or a symbol to include important information. Commands serve as documentation for your work and can be useful during program reviews or revisions. It will make evaluating the program months or years down the road a lot easier for you and other programs. A hash symbol precedes the command instructing the interpreter to ignore the line and move on to the next statement. The first example, it just shows print out a welcome greeting, just with a print function, basic print function. And then next is you can wrap connected lines together with a hash symbol at the beginning of each line for long commands that span several lines, which is shown in the example 2. You can also use the triple quotes at the beginning and end of the multi-line command. So here it just shows the multi-line commands example in the example number 3. The next and the last, docstring. A document string, also known as the docstring, is a string that describes what a class or a function does. Docstring summary can be found at the top of the code block that defines a class, method, functions, or module. Docstring are phrases that typically begin with a capital letter and end with a period. They are enclosed in the triple double quotes and maybe span multiple lines. A docstring begins with a one-line summary written in the form of imperative statements. And kindly have a note, a docstring is a string that starts with a capital letter and ends with a period that describes metadata. Docstring are used to link documentation to objects in Python. Okay, dear friends, in the preface, we installed Anaconda, which comes along with the latest version of Python and Jupyter Notebook, and it's time to open our Jupyter Notebook and begin our Python journey. And see here, dear friends, actually now that you all set up, and you can begin with the very first interesting topic, that is numbers. And we are just going to make use of that numbers with basic max operations and continuation with the types and variables, where some operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and exponential or core operation, and added with to that this modulus operators and integer divisions are equally essential as well. And see here, dear friends, there are many advantages by using Python as the choice. The first is that you are not limited to using programs that other have written. You can write a program to determine the greatest common divisor or any distance between or 2 points. So other advantage include reliability, precision, and speed. Python generally prints out more decimal places than most calculators, and it always does what you command it to do. So we will cover a small sample of what Python can calculate, and let me just go with the basic maths operation. See here, dear friends, we can perform addition on two numbers by using the plus operator, and where the following example just shows 5 added with 2. So here we are using the additional operator plus in the code, and here this 5 plus 2, you just get the following output 7. We can perform addition on two numbers by using the plus operator, and the following example shows the subtraction of the same 5 and 2. So here what we just received, the output is 3. And see here, dear friends, when on just making this by using the asterisk, that is the multiplication operator, to multiply the two numbers, and see how the exact functionality is as like 5 into 2, that is 5 product of 2, we just get the output as 10. Now here we are there in the division operator, where we just have 5/2, and the cell of 4 is having the output of 2.5. And when dividing two numbers, Python will always return a decimal. So sum, it just gives whether if it is integer, so it would just returns only 2. So here as Python will always return a decimal, we are just having the 2.5 as the resultant. And see here, dear friends, we're on just making the same divisions. You can be by using this double slash operator, which is just called the integer division. And see, just kindly have a look onto this, the output. If we just make 5 integer division of 2, the result of the integer division is the integer before the decimal point. So here it just returns only the integer point, not additional width of the decimal points. And next, let me just make use of the exponential operator, where it just has the 5 to the power of 2, and here we would just have the 5 to the power of 2, which it just results with the 25. Okay, see next example, it shows how to use the modulus operator. Yes, dear friend, by using this modulus operator in just making it 5 modulus of 2, we would just get the resultant as 1. And the modulus operator is performed by using the percentage operator. And see, as here it's shown in the cell 7, it returns the remainder when the first number is divided by the second. And see here, dear friends, next is the topic of order of operators. See here, when coming to the order of operators, yes, I have just provided that parentheses are meaningful in Python. So when it comes to computation, Python always computes what is in the parentheses first. So the Python language follows the same order of operations as in the mathematical world. You may reminder that exactly the parenthesis is the first, next the second one is exponential, and followed by multiplication, division, and at last it just comes with the addition, subtraction. And consider here the following expression, that is 5 plus 2 multiple to that of minus 3. And see here, dear friends, here we are not having any parenthesis. So when on just making this operation, as it is considered without the parenthesis, so asterisk, that is the multiplication symbol, has the highest priority. So the 2 would be multiplied with the other operand, where the other operand is signed integer, that is minus 3. So we would just get the resultant of 2 into minus 3 is minus 6. When it is added with the next prioritize of 5, so 5 minus 6, and it just results with minus 1. So the next example, it just shows with the parenthesis. And see here, dear friends, when on just parenthesis, yeah, as I have specified, parenthesis gives the highest prioritized, so it just compute it is in first. So the 5 plus 2 computation done first, so the resultant would be 7, which is then multiplied with the minus 3, and here is the resultant. See, if ever in doubt, use parentheses. Parentheses are very helpful for complex expressions, and extra parentheses do not affect code. And let me just go with some exercise where we are just going to dive into Python code and work with some mathematical operations. Okay, and see here, dear friends, let me just have this exercise to have some primary max operations in Python and understands their order of execution. And this exercise can be made in the formation as with a simple example. So the first one, it just shows, as I have just specified in the command, subtract 5 to the third power, which is 53, and from 100 and divide the result by 5. And see here, when I'm just making this formation, so here we want to have the subtraction 5 to the third power, where you are just going to make it with the 100. So it is already specified. and here we are just getting the exact operations, as parenthesis is the first prioritize, and inside that it just makes the exponential and which is subtracted then with 100, and to that last it just divided by 5 and which it results with minus 5.0. And see here the next example, which it just shows add 6 to the remainder of 15 divide 4. And see, we are in need of remainder. So in the sense of modulus, it just gives us the remainder. So when on just making this, so we have to add 6 to that. So here when on making the 15 modulus 4, it just results with only the 3 as remainder, where if it is added to 6, yeah, we just get the output as 9. And next here we are just having the another example, that is add 2 to the second power. Second power is power of 2, which is 22, and to the integer division of 24 and 4. And see here we are just making it as integer division, and yeah, according to this we just get the following output of 10. So here, dear friends, actually in this quick exercise, you have used the Python to perform basic maths using the order of operations. And as you can see, actually this Python is an excellent calculator. You will use Python often as a calculator, even in any set of programming or functionality. Next is the spacing in Python. See, you may have wondered about space in between numbers and symbols. In Python, space after a number or symbol do not carry any meaning. So for an example, see here I have just specified an example 5 asterisk 3, that is 5 the product of 3, and next the example I have just given a space in between the operator and to that of operand, and here it is nothing but going to have any resultant. Okay, see if I just make it here as 5 double asterisk 3, so that is 5 to the power of 3, what we just resultant is 125. And see here, dear friends, space are meant to enhance readability. Although there is no correction way to space code, spaces are generally encouraged between operands and operators. And here, yeah, you can just make use of any of this operand and which is preferable. Okay, now let me just try to follow certain convention in perfectly acceptable, and let me just go into the next topic, that is the number type, which we are just going to make it by use of integers and floats. Now you will address the difference between an integer and float. So consider for an example, let me just have 8 and 8.0. So you know that 8 and 8.0 are equivalent mathematically. They both represents the same number, but they are different types. So 8 is an integer and 8.0 is a decimal, which has a decimal. So it is a float. An integer in Python is classified as a type of int or short for integer. Okay, so integers includes all positive and negative whole numbers including 0. And floats by contrast are Python types represented as decimals, and all rational numbers expressed as fractions can be represented as floats. So we are only covering the text and numeric types in this session. So other types would be comes in the next session. So okay, let me just go with an exercise. See here, dear friends, here when on just begin by explicitly, let me just have using the type of function. Okay, let me check what is the 6 is of. Yeah, here it just shows it is an integer. And to the same 6, if you include or if you just have a suffix of 0.0, what it just means? Yeah, it is that type of float. And see here, dear friends, to the next example, yeah, how we are just making it. Yeah, it is an addition of 5 and 3.14. And yeah, you all know that that is 5 is an integer and the 3.14 as it has a decimal, so it is a float. And when on adding the both, the resultant would be, yeah, it seems as 8.14. It's clear from the output that combining an integer and a float gives us the float. So this makes sense. If Python returned 8, you would be lose some information. So when possible, Python converts types to preserve information. So, however, let me just change some types by using the type keyword. Yeah, you can also specify, which we just say in short as like casting, type casting. Yeah. Then see here, dear friends, if I just specify int of 7.9999, whatever be after decimal. So here I just want it to be an integer. So in this sense, yeah, it just gives me the 7 only the integer value. And when just coming to the next one, see here we are just providing integer 6, and we want to make it convert it into a typing of float, and this float it would be resulted as 6.0. And dear friends, in this exercise, you determined types by using the type keyword, and you changed some types between integer and floats. And see here, dear friends, as a developer, you will need to use your knowledge of variable types more often than you might expect. It's not uncommon to be unsure of a type when dealing with hundreds of variables simultaneously or when editing others people's code also. And see, let me just next go for complex number types. See, Python includes complex numbers as an official type. Complex numbers arise when take the square roots of negative numbers. There is no real numbers whose square root is minus 9. So we say that it equals 3i. And another example of a complex number is, let me just have it as 2i plus 3. And see here, dear friends, Python uses j instead of the I, that is the complex number. And you can also take a look at the code. See here, 2.3j. You want to divide it by 1 minus 5j. And yeah, here we are just going to have the enclosing which is inside the parenthesis, and it is resulted with 0.5, that is minus 0.5 plus 0.5j. There are so many things is there when we just have to make use of these complex numbers. Okay, let me just move on to the next topic, variables. See here, dear friends, in Python, variables are memory slots that can store elements of any type. The name variable is meant to be suggestive, as the idea behind a variable is that the value can vary throughout a given program. So how you just make the assignment of a variable. So let me just have it. See, in Python, variables are introduced the same way as in Max. So by using the equal sign. So in most programming language, however, order matters. That is, x is equal to 3.14 means that the value 3.14 gets assigned to x. And however, 3.14 is equal to x will produce an error because it's impossible to assign a variable to a number. So let me just see it one by one in this exercise 3. And see here, dear friends, what we are just going to make is, let we set x as equal to number 2. That is, we are assigning the value 2 to the x variable. So if you want to know what is the x, yeah, you can just specify each and let know what is x. Yeah, it shows, yeah, 2 is the value of x. And now see, if you want to add 1 to the variable x, and we already know that is x is the value of 2, and if you add the 1, okay, now I'm just adding 8, and yeah, let me just know what is the value of x now. Yeah, see here, it just seems to be the variable same. Here it is not to updated to that of variable plus 1. So if you just want to make use of this to be added, yeah, you have to make once on we add 1 again, we get the output 3. And see here, dear friends, when we just make this functionality, okay, when we just make this functionality, if you want to make x is equal to 3.0, or if you just make one more time as addition of 1, what it just happens? Yeah, now my x would be 4.0. Okay, let's just see. Yeah, see here. So in this step, what we just make is we change the value of x to 4.0 as to that of previous. What we just making is we are making x as a float value, and we are making that is assigning the value 3.0 to it, and then for us we are adding 1. So by end of this quick exercise, you may have noticed that in the program, you can assign a variable in terms of its previous value. And this is a powerful tool and many developers use to quite often. So furthermore, the type of x has changed as x started as integer, but now it is 3.0, which is the float. So let me just go for the next one. Let me make use of the changing the types to as in our program. Okay, see here, dear friends. In some language, it is not possible for a variable to change the type. So this means that if the y variable is an integer, then y must always be an integer. And Python, however, is dynamically typed, and as we have just seen in the previous exercise, assigning a variable and an illustration, it can be done easily. And see here, let me just start our y as an integer and assigning the value y is equal to 10. Next, again, we are just making some assigning where y is equal to y minus 10.0. And see here, dear friends, we are changing it to a float. Once after making this operation, and let me check for the type of y, what it just has. Yeah, it's in float. Okay, now the same thing, let me just make it step by step, one by one. And see here, dear friends, now let me just start as an integer in cell 25. See, my y is an integer. So if I just make, what is the type of y? It's an integer. And if I just want to make, or if I want to change its type, let I assign the value 10.0 to the y. Done. Now check for the type. It's in float. And here it is the another term, reassigning variables in terms of themselves. See, it's common in programming to add one to a variable. For instance, here I have just provided x is equal to x plus 1. So which we have just shortly we specify as x plus or equal to 1. So if we just say x was 6 or x was 7, and if we just specify x plus equal to 1, now it would be incremented by 1. Okay, let me just make it with a small exercise here. Let I just give, I just command here this one. Okay, so here what we are just going to make is, let me give x equal to 6. Okay, and I just want to have some more example. So what is my value of x here? Yeah, it's 6. If I just provide x plus, sorry, x plus equal 1. And let I just make the execution. Now what is my x value? It's 7. And even though if you want to have the default incremental of 2, yeah, you can just make by using x plus equal 2. Okay, now let me just move on to the next one, variable names. For what we are making use of this variable names? See, actually, to avoid confusion, it's recommended to use variable names that make sense to the readers. Instead of using x, the variable may become as like income or age. Although x is shorter, someone else reading the code might not understand what x is referring. So you try to use variable names that are indicative of the meaning. So there are some restrictions when naming variables. So for instance, variables cannot start with numbers, most special characters or keywords, nor built-in types. So variables also cannot contain spaces between letters. And according to Python conventions, it's best to use lowercase letters and to avoid special characters altogether, as they will often cause errors. And here Python keywords are reserved in the language, and they have special meaning. And let me just have what are all the keywords is there, so that we don't want to use it as our variable names. And see here, dear friends, if you use any of these preceding keywords as variable names, Python will throw an error. And yeah, as to add to this, kindly have a note of this, dear friends. Whenever we are just having the keywords, everything are in lowercase only. And one another thing, the 3 1, that is the true, false and none, it is in capitalized. So this is what the default keyword. So have a note of it. Okay, now let me just go on to make use of the standard way to name variable by considering some good and bad practice also. Okay, see here, dear friends. So here I want to create a variable which is called the first number, and I want to assign it 1. And see here, dear friends, my variable naming is starting with 1. And when on just making, you would get an error. Exactly. So what is mentioning is preceding to this above image. It just shows it is an invalid syntax. That is, the variable name should not start with a number. Okay, instead that you can just have like this. Yeah, it happened. And secondly, see here, dear friends, if you just want to make use of a special character, yeah, you can just make use of underscore. But here the special character which we just say the dollar symbol is not acceptable. See here, the underscore is acceptable. The error occurs only after that. Only after that. And you can also use letters again instead of special characters for the variable name. Yeah, if you just want to make use of it, let me just, instead of this dollars, you can make use like this. Yeah, it's acceptable. So in this exercise, you have learned to use the underscores to separate words, yeah, when naming variables, and not to start with variable names with numbers or not include any special symbols rather than underscore. Okay, dear friends, let me just have one more thing, that is multiple variable. See here, dear friends, when on just having the multiple variable, most program contains multiple variable. The same rules apply as when working with single variable. And you will practice working with multiple variables in many of the exercise that would be following. Okay, see here, let me just assign 5 to x and 2 to y. Okay, yeah, here we are having the same thing, and let in a single cell you can just make use of it. and I just want to make an expression that is x plus x, which is separated with a y that is power of 2, and which is just said as second power of y. Okay, so here, yeah, it has exactly, so it has already assigned with a value, and Python has a lot of cool shortcuts, and multiple variable assignment is one of them. And yeah, see here, dear friends, when you just make this the code which is optimum readable format, so kindly just make use of this as an advantageous of to that. Okay, now let me just make use of, see here, this is what a surprising one when on just making as Python, assigning a to x and phi to y in one line. Kindly just have a look off to the cell 38. X is equal to 5, y is equal to 2. You have just done in two separate lines, assigning these two variables. But here, assigning the same thing, x is equal to 8 and y is equal to 5. You are just assigning in a single line by using one single assignment operator. And yeah, here you are just getting the exact methodology. And when on just making, if you want to make use of that integer division, yeah, here is the resultant of 8 that is divided integer division of 5. And yeah, dear friends, in this exercise you have just practiced working with multiple variables, and you even learned about the Pythonic way to assign values to multiple variables in one line. Okay, let me just move on to the command. See here, dear friends, commands are extra block of code that do not run. They are meant to clarify code for readers. So in Python, any text following with the symbol hash on a single line, it is a command. And commands followed by this hash symbol may be an inline or above the text or anything. And see here, kindly have a note of it. Consistent use of command will make reviewing and debugging code much easier. So it's strongly advisable to practice this from here on out. Okay, let me just make use of this with the command. And see here, dear friends, here above is the exact command, and here it is the example. This is the command, and you're not going to do nothing. So actually, when you just execute this cell, nothing is going to happen, nothing you have seen here. But see, when on just making this, adding a command, it just clarifies what it just follows. And I just want to make it, that is, set the variable pi that is equal to 3.14, which is just shows that you are just going to assign 3.14 to a variable pi, that is pi. So it would be adding the command, it just gives a clarification. And see here, dear friends, you can also make use of that command it in the same line, that is after to that of commands also. So it's less common to provide command on the same line. It is acceptable and often appropriate. And next, it just comes the doc string. Dear friends, kindly have a note of it. Doc string, which is just a short for document string. It just states what a given document, so such as a program, a function, or a class, or actually does. So the primary difference in syntax between a docstring and a command is that docstring are intended with to be written over multiple lines, and which can be accomplished with triple quotes. They also introduced a given document, so they are placed at the top. So here it is the document, and see here you can just have multiple lines, and you can also have any such lines like this. So when you execute the cell, yeah, nothing really going to happen, as like docstring, like commands are designed as information for developers reading and writing code. So they have nothing to do with the output of this code. Okay, dear friends, so far in this session, you have just used Python as a basic calculator and along with the orders of operations. And you examined the difference between integer and float variables and learn how to convert between them. And you can also implemented variables, assignments and reassign variables to make programs run more smoothly, and you also utilized the command to make code more readable and learn how to identify syntax error. So in addition, you learn a couple of cool Python shortcuts that including assigning multiple variables to one line, and as added you have explored the Python's complex number types too. Okay, now next let me just see on the main type strings in the next session. Thank you dear friends, have a nice day.